Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. My name's Dave Davis, your normal host, coming to you from freezing Edinburgh. You know, where if you're in those parts of the world where it looks like you're in a freezer outside and everything's iced over, that is exactly what it is like up here. The only advantage is you can put your cans of Pepsi Max and stuff outside and they are instantly chilled. But other than that, it is absolutely freezing. And to be honest, people, it was freezing up at the AXA this morning, wasn't it, for Arne Slott's press conference? 9 a.m. ahead of the Accrington game, which, don't get caught out by this, is 12:15 kickoff tomorrow on Saturday, the early one, even a little bit earlier than the normal 12:30, isn't it, in that regard? So it is cold. It is not the warmest. Arne Slot was answering all sorts of questions, though, wasn't he? He was answering questions about transfers, the squad, who's fit. So we'll get into that with the normal Slot Q&A. We'll have a little look back. I know we won't want to, but to that Spurs Carabao game, won't we? Yeah, what did we take from that? Any lessons? We'll be respectful here. We'll look at how Accrington are doing, because we always normally talk about opposition, don't we? Their threats, what they bring. So I think it's important to have a look at how Accrington are doing at the moment. Any player, shall we say, that it's worth looking out for. And then I'll give you my predicted lineup, score, and scorer as normal. Like we said, it was absolutely freezing. There's a picture for you from Sky's Vinny O'Connor up at the AXA. You can see the ice. Probably people may have noted as well yesterday, Liverpool didn't train, wasn't it? They didn't land back in Liverpool after the Carabao. They landed in Birmingham. The players didn't get home until the early hours, which was confirmed in Arne Slot. Doubly confirmed it. So, yeah, we'll see who's available. But most importantly, we start, as we always do, with the questions Arne Slot was asked and the answers he gave. So, the first one, Vinny O'Connor from Sky. It's important we say, I'll probably pronounce his name wrong, but Kvaratskhelia, all the transfer rumours, Al Hilal, he kind of put it in one big package. And let's be honest, after yesterday, this was the moment we were hoping, like cinema style, weren't we, with that ba 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 ba. And we didn't really get the answer we were looking for. But what would we expect from Arne Slot when he was asked about it? So what did he say? He said, when you said yourself, you're linked with these players, I was like, which club are you going to ask me now? As a club, we've been linked with Kvaratskhelia, you say. What I make of that is it's January. I think I said after the West Ham game, don't disappoint me. Please come up with all these clubs and all these players that have interest for us. The ones for us also get linked away as well. 99, this was the line. 99 times out of 100, it's been clear that almost all of these stories weren't true. So there's no comments from my side. The rumours keep going for it. There's a couple of things on this around Kvaratskhelia that, number one, Arne Slot is not, and this is not derogatory as well, because I think he's an absolute genius. Arne Slot is not in charge of transfers for Liverpool Football Club. All the info we have is that he naturally is asked for his opinion about which position we could improve, who we'd want, and then obviously it goes to Richard Hughes through Michael Edwards or all the normal channels, etc. But he's not directly in charge. The second thing is, people forget with this. He was asked about Zubimendi before he had to say we tried and failed. He kind of denied that as well. He's not going to give you a name and say, yeah, we're in Kvaratskhelia territory and it's close, or anything along those lines for anyone jumps on exact wording. And the third thing, which is most important to consider, if there is anything in it, why would he tell you? Yeah, Liverpool often are known for being sharp operators when they do business, keeping their powder dry. So in simple terms, I don't really know why people are sort of putting too much stake in what Arne Slot's answering around this in a press conference. Just personal opinion. And as he said, 99 times out of 100, could this be the one? Who knows? We're all excited that way. It's Liverpool involved in transfer talk, isn't it? So that was the opening question in this press conference. He was then asked about players available, because obviously we had a few injuries recently, players not being available, and asked about Harvey Elliott. So, well, the game is an opportunity for them to have a chance to play. Dom trained with the under-21s yesterday. Jurel was a bit ill in the last game as well, and as a result, I had to take him off. But I'm expecting him to be available for tomorrow. So that's doubly good news. You can't get away from it. Dominic Szoboszlai is back. He trained with the under-21s yesterday. Good news. Szob and Quansah went off against Spurs, but he's expected to be back. Good news. We've now got 3 fit central defenders. I think both, I'm going to show my hand here a bit, but I think both of them will be in the lineup for tomorrow. So we'll see. So absolutely good news for that. No two ways about it. He was then asked an interesting question, and you can probably see if you've got the visual at his face there. I didn't look too impressed by it, but about Liverpool's standards may slip in. And as the journo asked, maybe the passes haven't been crisp. Your form hasn't been that great in the last few games. Rather than me talk through this one, let's have a listen to what Arne Slot said specifically. It's not a massive answer, but there's a bit of length to this, pardon the pun.
And the passing hasn't been as crisp and sharp, perhaps?
I don't see that many differences compared to to many other games we've played. The only difference is that we've played these 2 games after winning 6-3 from Tottenham and winning 5-0 from West Ham. So after those 2 games, everybody said, we know they were good, but that they were that good, we probably didn't know even that yet. So if you compare it to those standards, I do agree that the games against United and against the last game against Tottenham were of lower standards compared to those 2. If you look back at all the other games, so even Leicester City away, we were 2-1 up with 10 minutes to play. So we the whole season, I said this many times, we won a lot of games, and almost every game we won. Maybe the only exception could be Chelsea, but all the other ones we've deserved to win, but never by a big margin. It was always very tight. And if people ask me, what can we improve? That is increasing that margin, because otherwise you always depend on a bit of luck or a bit of being unlucky as well, or a certain decision that can be made. The referee decision, of course. And we must make sure that we don't depend on those moments anymore, and that's the next step we have to make if we don't want to depend on luck or bad luck. Because Crystal Palace away, they got a big chance 10 minutes before the end, didn't score. We beat them with 1-0. And I know in football it's everywhere the same around the world. You're only judged by the results, and because of the results, people judge you on the performance. And it's not many times that if a team has a draw or a loss that people say they played really, really, really well. The Tottenham, it's a long answer this. The Tottenham game, if the referee would have given the red card, we would have kept a clean sheet over there. Maybe be able to score against 10 men. Everybody would have said, again, a difficult away game with a clean sheet. They totally controlled and dominated the game. Again, a good performance of Liverpool. And now, because we conceded the goal, it's all about us being a bit more sloppy and all these kind of things. That's what this industry is about, and it's up to me to see, is there really so much difference between us playing Leicester City, playing Ipswich away, playing Crystal Palace away? And I think we are still the same team.
Yeah, as I said there, and you saw and heard, quite a meaty answer that he gave. And there's a good few bits to this for me. I get what he's saying about the standards in a great way have become that high. We obliterated Spurs, didn't we? I know it was a 6-3 scoreline, but let's be honest, we absolutely battered them. West Ham was an annihilation. 5-0 didn't flatter us. There's been so much to like recently about what we've delivered. On the other side, and I know he said that these games have been close a lot of the time, maybe in the scoreline, but there have been teams we have absolutely dominated. I think if we're honest, and I get what he's saying here, but the last few games, United, it was pretty poor at parts. I think the mentality and the attitude was questioned by a lot, and understandably, and certain players come into that, as we know. This Spurs game, it was almost, it's one of those. It's a bit like Gattuso. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's it was a very average performance, wasn't it, in that regard? And 0-0, bar the, obviously we know what happened. We'll talk about that from Spurs. If we finished that way, it kind of would have been all right. That's half time. It's a decent result away, and we move on. So these things are sometimes punctuated by that last minute thing. I do think it's fair to say, though, we've not been terrible, but we've not quite been at our best the last few games. That's very fair to say. The evidence is there. So people will be looking to see, can we get back on track in January? We'll see how that develops. So I thought it was a fair question, and he gave details about Anderson game. So it's fair play to him for that. He was also asked about Harvey Elliott and needing game time, because that's been a talking point, hasn't it, as well? He said, I agree. He's a talented player, and he's been with us for so long. In recent weeks, he comes in quite a lot, and he gets his minutes over there. I'm assuming he means like almost with the under-21s or the sessions he's doing at the AXA. He, like many, is in competition with many other good players. He got injured and was out for a long time. What I've seen from now in this league is this tempo, this intensity. It's not easy to come back and be at your best immediately. Not only with Harvey, you've seen this with other players who've been out for 5, 6, 7 weeks. That is the balance we have to find. Our margins are constantly small. And if you're 5-0 up, you can give players 30 minutes or so, even longer. But that is not the way we won our games until now. Again, it's a bit of a yes and no, and I get why he answered that way. I think, again, he's a sharp operator, Arne. You can understand fully why he said this. The thing for me is, you've seen with Jota, Jota's being fed in very slowly, despite how long he's been back from that injury. You do get the feeling Arne wants to be certain. There's also the element of Konate. I think, if you're honest, since we've seen Ibu come back, which we're ecstatic he's back, don't get me wrong, clearly wasn't fit against United. And in the last 10 minutes against Spurs, clearly wasn't fit as well. And for me, being honest, does quite poorly for the goal against Solanke. But I'll give him a pat. He just doesn't look fit. So I get what Arne Slot's saying about the intensity, getting back into it, especially in this Liverpool side. It isn't easy at all. But the long and short of it is, Harvey Elliott's hardly being used at all. That's why it's a very fair question to ask. Just look at the facts about the minutes of the last 5 or 6 league games that we've played. I mean, even Spurs in the Carabao, not a single minute. United, I think we've got 5 minutes, was it, at the end? And you can go all the way back to Fulham and other places. I'm not personally convinced Arne Slot, and I want to phrase this carefully, massively fancies Harvey Elliott. I think he knows he's got talent and ability, but you just see it. Curtis Jones, who is a brilliant player, by the way, but hasn't had the best few games, he's still staying on the pitch quite often ahead of Harvey Elliott as an option. Nunes is being brought on ahead of Harvey Elliott. I mean, Harvey Elliott was the number 12, the super sub almost last season, wasn't he? And I know he's had an injury and it is a bad one, but he isn't that anymore. So I thought that was a very fair question. And then the final one I'll pull out, because there was other ones, but Rio and Trey, because Trey Naoni, Rio Goma, could they be playing? So he was asked about them. He said, well, we still have to train. Yesterday we couldn't, as the flight from London arrived late, and we gave them the day off. We have to see how everyone has recovered today, and then we have to make a decision. Trey has been in the squad many times already. Rio only once, but these players are doing well, especially when they're training with us. As long as they keep doing that, their chances of doing this in the first team will increase. I'm actually excited for this, because I think both those players will be in the squad. And I actually believe one of those players will start and one of those players will be on. They are talented. And from what we've seen, I mean, it is training footage. It's all the bits. We've heard the reports of embarrassing first teamers, young Rio in trade. We like to hear it. We want to see that. Trey, people forget that Southampton game, how almost just comfortable and confident he looked on the ball in that Carabao Cup quarter-final away at Southampton. The fact that he switched positions so well in that game with Harvey, had an impact in the middle, an impact out wide, but just careful, considered on the ball. So I do think Trey will start tomorrow. So yeah, those are the main questions. I would say that it's worth pulling out from the Arne press conference. And now we'll take you back to that game. Liverpool were beaten 1-0, weren't they, by Spurs away at the Tottenham Stadium. I mean, this game ain't without controversy in it or something coming up there at the same time. So it's always a VAR ref decision. But what sort of the lessons, the clues we got from that? For me, it was a better performance than United. And I mean that. There was a lot not to like about the United game, if we're honest, and when we can talk about certain players individually. Trent, it's fair to say, did well when he came on as well. If we're going to hammer him for United, we've got to praise him for the Spurs game at the same time. It's one of those, though, the result punctuates everything. If it finishes 0-0 and there's not a stupid decision by the ref, which we'll come to a bit as well, then you kind of saying, yeah, that's fair. We're moving on to the next one. Second leg, we'll take him. Maybe now, if anything, it's made it a little bit juicy. The other thing, as I mentioned there, Ibou Konate clearly wasn't fit. I do wonder, I think that's the biggest mistake Slot made in that game, bringing him on for the last 10 minutes, personally. He just wasn't fit. And you see that the way he kind of, Solanke just nudges him off. And he was blowing out his arse after 60 against United. Let's be honest, a fully fit Ibou is the second best defender in the league behind Virgil van Dijk, but he's just not properly fit at the moment. I think a little bit we paid the penalty for that. But I'll tell you one thing we did pay the penalty for, Stuart Atwell and his clown show at the Tottenham Stadium. I mean, we try and always measure this when we do like Media Matters with David Lynch and others. These refs are just so bad. Everyone got obsessed with him announcing that offside, didn't they? And that reason on the VAR. It's an awful decision. Awful not to book Bergvall for a second time. He shouldn't be on the pitch to get that equaliser. It's so straightforward. The one thing you'd say, Simicast has to go off, but it is a stupid rule. I don't obviously see you penalised for being fouled a little bit, aren't you? That's what happens. It's a bizarre rule. Simicast gets taken out, should have seen the player have a yellow card, and he's made to go off for 30 seconds where he could have been there and helped out. Paul Tierney, yeah, just thinking that as well. Someone's just put it in red for live. Tierney VAR. I mean, he's the ultimate ladies' gym bike sniffer, isn't he? Type of job. It's an awful official. And then Simon Hooper, they all go into the clown show bag together. They really do. And the Paul Tierney, I would love to know what Paul Tierney thinks Dejan Kulusevski did or didn't do to Curtis Jones. Because we've heard so often this season, any contact in the area, you know, Kulusevski just whacks through the back of Curtis Jones. Jones goes down. The VAR replay is so blatantly obvious. And Tierney checks it and we play on. Good process, lads, as they say. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw the whole thing with Anthony Taylor and Duran Duran and that decision. People go in, or you can hear the bonus say, yeah, it's yellow, and then just changes his mind 20 seconds. I think it's red, actually. We'll go. It just is nonsensical what goes on with these officials. Thing is, though, we can't do anything about it. We've bigger fish to fry, and maybe, just maybe, it sets it up nicely with a bit of juice for that second leg. So, yeah, a few lessons to be taken there, no doubt about it. Accrington. Now, I want to be respectful because they're a big community club, Accrington, that Andy Holt, their owner, is quite active on social media. A lot of people have gotten opinions on him, haven't they? But he does engage with the public. I think in his fans, it is fair to say. You look at the League 2 table, you want to be respectful, they're 19th, but they're known to have the smallest budget in the league, aren't they? They've got 32 goals. Sean Worley's one to look out for as well. You try, you know, let's be honest. We should batter them. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I say this, but it's important just to look at how they are. Let's show them the respect they deserve. And I hope there's a lot of players in their ranks that are Liverpool fans. So they get a good reception. And I'm going to be honest, there's a part of me, because there's so many Liverpool fans in their ranks, I want them to score a goal. It doesn't really matter, does it, as long as we win? I want them to score a goal for their fans. I hope it's a Liverpool fan and all that type of thing. So we'll see there. But yeah, it's a difficult season. It's always a difficult time, as Andy Holt said, for Accrington. Which brings us to the final bit of the lineup, the score, and the scorers. Now, people would love, and I get this as well, a full kind of change it all. When I say change it all, what I mean by that is all youngsters, all the senior players rested. I think Slot has proven there will be rotation, but there won't be as many players left at home, if you want, or having a rest as you think, just because of rhythm, the way the games are working at the moment. So this is weird, but I'm almost going to think of what Forest lineup's going to be. So I think you're going to see, Alisson, Trent's going to play against Forest, Robbo, VVD, Kanate, Grav, Mac, probably Szoboszlai for me. And then it's Jota, Salah, Gats. To almost take that. And the reason I'll explain is that defines who will not start this for me. I think it'll be Kelleher in nets, Connor Bradley and Tsimikas. I know people will say, hold on, isn't that the same fullbacks? Yeah, but they need minutes. They've been out. They've been rusty. I think it's going to be Bradley and Tsimikas as the fullbacks. In the middle, I think Endo will be one. And by the sounds of it, Jarell Quansah will be there as well. If there's any doubt whatsoever, I want to see Narlo get the game. I want to see, to be honest, VVD and Kanate left at home completely for this. There's no reason they need to play. Maybe, and I don't like saying this, there might be a thing to give Kanate a few minutes almost to get his fitness up where it doesn't matter. And I get that. But then I'm also thinking, I don't want him risked in this at all. So that's my back line. In the middle, Harvey Elliott, Dominic Szoboszlai. I think they'll try and give him some minutes, maybe an hour, 45, a half to get him ready. Train Ione as well. That's who I want to see. Forward line, I think this is going to be a bit harsh for Accrington Stanley. Chiesa on the right. I think Nunes will start, which it sounds terrible. I'm a bit sad about because I kind of want to see Jayden Danns get in this. And I think he will get minutes eventually. And Diaz on the left. I just think that is what you will see in this one. Maybe that's something nice for the Accrington fans, but for us, I'm probably thinking like it'll be stronger than many of us would want it to be, even though the starting lineup against Forest is likely to be completely left out. But that's how I picture it. I'll think McConnell will come on, Jayden Danns will get minutes. I'd like to see Narlo get minutes as well. Obviously, it will depend where we are in the game. Hopefully, we're well clear in that regard. So I do think you're going to see serious rotation for Accrington. Much as there's been the Spurs and people will talk about rhythm, which I understand, I just think it's going to be a focus with one eye on that Forest game, which, let's be honest, is absolutely fucking massive. So that's your focus there. That's how I believe the lineup will look, ladies and gents. And naturally, that brings us back to the score and scorers. I am going for 3-1 and Fede Chiesa to get on the score sheet. That is what I'm going for. Actually, fuck it, it's the FA Cup. Chiesa and Elliott to get on the score sheet. 3-1 with both of them. I just think Harvey Elliott will be quite determined if he plays to send a message. Chiesa, we'd just like to see him getting minutes, look at him as a serious, viable option as for Mo Salah, wouldn't we? So that is what I'm going. 3-1. I'd like Accrington to get a goal. Chiesa, Elliott on the score sheet. Throw your thoughts in as well. See if you commented on YouTube. Who do you think will be in the lineup? Who do you think will be on the score sheet for us as well? What do you think the score will be at the same time? But there we are, ladies and gents. It is absolutely freezing ass cold in the UK. It's, as you see there, it's freezing ass cold in Liverpool. So if you are going to the game, do wrap up warm, do enjoy it. There's always something special about these FA Cup games. And I'm going to be honest, especially in these types of things, what I love to see when you see it on the TV for the FA Cup, if you don't give your ticket up, get the youngsters in. Get the young lads and girls, get the young scousers in. This is what it should be about. Their chance to have an affordable taste of Anfield, the ones that don't get in too often. That's personally what I always like to see, especially in these early types of kickoffs. We'll see the attendance, the makeup of the crowd, etc., and everything like that. But there we are, ladies and gents. Friday, the 10th. Look at that coming red for life. He's enthusiastic. 5-1. Chiesa, Harvey, Dombrace, and Darwin. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Just a nice little boost before Nottingham Forest. But within 24 hours of this kickoff against Accrington Stanley, remember 12:15 tomorrow. Do not get caught out. That was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.